Jaya Gopi Janavada Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavada Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Good morning, dear devotees. Today we are reading from the last text of this chapter, Canto 10, Chapter 20, Text 49. Vanin Muni Nripasnata Nirgamyartan Prapetire Varsharudhayata Siddha Swapindan Kala Agate Vanin Muni Nripasnata Nirgamyartan Prapetire Varsharudhayata Siddha Swapindan Kala Agate. Vanik, the merchants. Muni, renunciant sages. Nripa, kings. Snata, and brahmachari students. Nirgamya, going out. Artan, their desired objects. Prapedide, obtained. Varsa, by the rain. Udaha, checked. Yata, as. Siddha, perfected persons.
affected person,
Swapindan,
Swapindam,
the forms they aspire for.
the forms they aspire for.
Kale,
Kale,
when the time.
when time
Agate
has
has come.
come.
Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The merchants, sages, kings, and brahmachari students, kept in by the rain, were at last free to go out and attain their desired objects, just as those who achieve perfection in this life can, when the proper time comes, leave the material body and attain their respective forms. Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments, in Vrindavan, the autumn season was very beautiful. Then, because of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and Balaram, the mercantile community, the royal order, and the great sages were free to move to achieve their desired benedictions. Similarly, the transcendentalists, when freed from the engagement of the material body, also achieved their goal, their desired goal. During the rainy season, the mercantile community cannot move from one place to another, and so do not get their desired profit, nor can the royal order go from one place to another to collect taxes from the people. As for saintly persons who must travel to preach transcendental knowledge, they also are restrained by the rainy season, but during the autumn, all of them leave their confines. In the case of the transcendentalist, be he a jnani, a yogi, or a devotee, because of the material body, he cannot actually enjoy spiritual achievement. But as soon as he gives up the body, or after death, the jnani merges into the spiritual effulgence of the Supreme Lord. The yogi transfers himself to the various higher planets, and the devotee goes to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan, or the Vaikunthas, and thus enjoys his eternal spiritual life. Thus, in the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Rainy Season and Autumn in Vrindavan. You can pray with me to our acharyas to understand. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapurantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yura Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sakritatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jayapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Hare Vrindavaneshwari Vishwapanu Sudevi Anamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Rupasindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Shanebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vasatara Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. I humbly beg for all the blessings of the assembled devotees. Be able to speak something. Especially I'm feeling less prepared than normal because I've been sick with a cold. So the first thing that I just want to say is when I was saying that the translations and purports, have been done by the disciples of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada's Shakti and Prabhupada's mercy are still in these purports. I've been listening to the memorial ceremony of His Holiness Kadamba Kanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, who recently left his body. And he was actually not a direct disciple of Prabhupada, but he was a disciple of Jayadvaita Maharaj, who was a disciple of Prabhupada. And one devotee was saying that Prabhupada's mercy, Prabhupada's Shakti, it doesn't just end, with his disciples. It continues on afterwards for anyone who sincerely takes shelter of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's presence and Prabhupada's Shakti will continue to be present in these great souls for many, many generations to come. Although we should take advantage of Prabhupada's disciples, we shouldn't be scared that the mercy is just going to end by the departure of the disciples of Prabhupada. And also, we should always remember how potent Prabhupada's prana mantras are. I was just reading this story yesterday it's a true story, about someone who was in I'm pulling it up right now, who was imprisoned by the KGB. Her name was Purnamasi Devi Dasi. She was in prison for practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness in the Soviet Union. And while she was in jail, she would encourage other prisoners to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and the authorities tried to stop her in so many ways, but nothing worked. So finally, they brought a real witch to the prison to stop Purnamasi and deprogram her. And the witch arrived with her assistant and KGB officers. They tied this devotee to a chair, and the witch and her assistant started hexing, doing passes and chanting spells with their eyes rolled in trance. They were trying to infuse a dark creature into Purnamasi's body. She could sense it, and all around became covered with fog. Realizing that she was coming under their control, she started chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but this did not stop it. The creature was going inside. As Purnamasi began to lose consciousness, she chanted the Nrsimha mantra out loud, but even that did not stop the creature. Finally, she started chanting Srila Prabhupada's prana mantra, and right away the witch came out of her trance and stopped all her activities. She told the KGB officers, "I'm leaving," but they didn't tell her go. They ordered her to finish her job. The witch insisted, "No, I'm leaving. I will not go on any longer." Why? The KGB officers asked. What happened? She told them, "You simply do not see, but I see. There is a very strict old man standing over there wagging his finger at me. I cannot do anything against him." This old man was Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So that's an account attributed by Aradhana Das, received via email from His Holiness Giriraj Swami. So we just can't underestimate the power of Prabhupada's prana mantras, and how when we chant Prabhupada's prana mantras, Prabhupada is present with us. And when we read the translations and purports by his disciples, we should also chant his prana mantras, and we should also know that he is also present through his disciples in their translations and purports, since he has blessed them. So I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to say that this is the last verse of this chapter, and we've heard so many beautiful descriptions of the rainy season in Vrindavan, and now the fall season. And it's said that during the raining season, everybody was kept inside. But when the rainy season ends and the fall season begins, those people, like the merchants, sages, kings, and brahmachari students, they were at last free to go out and attain their desired objects. And in the translation, it says, just as those who achieve perfection in this life can, when the proper time comes, leave the material body and attain their respective forms. Again, I couldn't help myself. Like when I first heard this translation, I immediately just thought of His Holiness Kadamba Kanda Maharaj. and how he's recently left the body, and by leaving his body, he's attained his respective form in the spiritual world. How it was just so clear. I was talking to one of his disciples the other day, and who was there with him at the moment when he left the body in Vrindavan. And she was saying it was just so obvious that Lord Chaitanya clearly came for him. He had completely dedicated his life to the service of Devotee Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. And, towards the end, when you're in that condition, he was so, encaged by his body. Like his soul had, in one sense, you could use the word expanded so far beyond his body. But as he was living in that body, he was so encaged and so limited in what he could do. He was still, because of his transcendental status, he was still inspiring so many people while still in that body. But imagine the service that he's now doing for Prabhupada and Krishna, wherever he is, either in the spiritual world, in his body, Satchidananda body, or in a different plane serving Prabhupada's mission. He has attained the perfect destination. And my obeisances to Arjuna Prabhu, who has just come in. And that's actually what Prabhupada is promising all of us. Prabhupada, anyone who is sincerely serving Prabhupada, even if, His Holiness Kadambakanda Maharaj was such a famous personality, such an exalted personality, but there's so many devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement who, they're not famous, they're not well-known personalities, but they've surrendered their life to Krishna, and they're sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness. For those devotees also, when the proper time comes, when they leave the material body, they will also attain their respective forms. It says in the purport, as soon as he gives up the body or after death, the jnani merges into the spiritual foldings of the Supreme Lord. The yogi transfers himself to the various higher planets, and the devotees go to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan, or the Vaikunthas, and thus enjoys his eternal spiritual life. So someone who is sincerely trying to be a devotee of the Lord, they will go to Goloka Vrindavan to serve the Lord. Or as it's been explained, they will go to another universe where the Lord is having his pastimes to be trained up by those perfect devotees in the Lord's pastimes, to be able to go after that birth to Goloka Vrindavan. Or we'll go somewhere where Prabhupada is having his preaching mission to continue preaching and giving others Krishna consciousness. So it's not like during the raining season, the saintly persons, it says, as for saintly persons who must travel to preach transcendental knowledge, they also are restrained by the rainy season. But during the autumn, all of them leave their confines. It's not that during the rainy season, the saintly persons stop being Krishna conscious. It's not that they're like, oh, the rainy season is happening, I have to stay inside, let me just engage in Maya. They are not able to go out and do their preaching, but it's understood that during that time, they're going very internal. They're going deeper into their bhajan, they're going deeper into their Krishna consciousness. So similarly, for us in our life, we have the instructions of our spiritual master. And we also are in Prabhupada's preaching mission, and we should at all times be engaging in that preaching mission. But there could be, seasons of our life or days of our life where for one reason or other, we're not actually able to go out and preach, or we're not able to follow those instructions that have been given to us. And that doesn't mean that we stop being Krishna conscious or that we engage in Maya. It means that we go deeper internally, we go deeper, we take shelter internally, we try to learn the lessons from whatever is being given to us, and then we meditate on how we will follow those instructions when the time comes. Like, I think about when I was reading this, I was thinking about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was given the instruction by his spiritual master to preach in the English-speaking language. And that instruction was given to him when he was, a young man, the first time he met his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it wasn't until many years later that Prabhupada left India and boarded the Jaladuta to America, even though before that time he had started trying things in India. He was preaching in India in the English-speaking language. Nothing was really picking up or working. But even for some time before he was starting preaching in India, he was a family man. He had his pharmaceutical business. He was a grahasta. And, one could say, oh, Prabhupada didn't immediately act on that instruction. But Prabhupada, he was always meditating on that instruction within his heart. And like the Lilamrita says, a lifetime of preparation. Everything that he did was ultimately a preparation for when he was able to follow the order of his spiritual master so perfectly. So, we shouldn't be discouraged if there's a circumstance in our life which stops us from preaching or serving the way that our heart desires. But we should never forget. We should never forget those instructions. We should never forget those ways that we desire to serve. And we should try our very best to organize our life in such a way where we can serve and preach as much as possible. But we also shouldn't ignore our duties. If we are a grahasta, if we have family, if we have children, it's our duty to serve them. It's our duty to really, really serve them in a very, very beautiful way. And that is part of our service. I hope it's making sense what I'm saying, that I'm not just like rambling. But Prabhupada, he told the mother, he said that when you have a child, your child becomes your deity. And if your deity worship is getting in the way of your child worship, you should stop your deity worship and you should engage fully in child worship. So there's different seasons of life, just like there's different seasons in Vrindavan, and these different seasons in Vrindavan, they support different activities. So there's also different seasons in our life, and we shouldn't just ignore the seasons in our life. We should really embrace the seasons in our life and take guidance from our Shiksha gurus, our Diksha gurus, our seniors, the devotees, and hey, this is the season of my life that I am in, and how can I best serve Krishna while in this season of life? And that season of life can be a preparation for future seasons of life if we really, handle it properly. And then it's not a loss, it's actually a gain. I'm just thinking of myself. Like yesterday, I literally slept the entire day because I am sick with a cold. And, my tendency is like, oh, I'm not doing my service. I'm not in the office. I'm not having my meetings. I'm getting behind in my service. This is so not good. But if I just like push through that, then that's actually not going to be favorable for my service maybe the next couple of days. But if I just allow my body the rest that it needs on that day, then maybe like the future days will be better and I'll actually be able to do my service better. So everything is about balance. Balance is the key word. My spiritual master, he always tells me to be balanced. I feel like that's one of the most instructions that he's ever told, like the most repeated instructions that he's ever told me. He repeats that instruction to me all the time. So I just wanted to, because we have a few more minutes before opening it up to discussion, I just wanted to read through, since it's the last verse of the text, I just wanted to read through again just the description of autumn. So maybe if you're tuning in online or not sewing something, maybe just close your eyes and just try to picture the autumn season. The autumn season, which regenerated the lotus flowers, also restored the various bodies of water to their original purity, just as the process of devotional service purifies the minds of the fallen yogis when they return to it. Autumn cleared the sky of clouds, let the animals get out of their crowded living conditions, cleaned the earth of its covering of mud, and purified the water of contamination, in the same way that loving service rendered to Lord Krishna frees the members of the four spiritual orders from their respective troubles. The clouds, having given up all they possessed, shone forth with purified effulgence, just like peaceful sages who have given up all material desires and are thus free of all sinful propensities. During this season, the mountains sometimes released the pure water and sometimes did not, just as experts in transcendental science sometimes give the nectar of transcendental knowledge and sometimes do not. The fish swimming in the increasingly shallow water did not at all understand that the water was diminishing, just as foolish family men cannot see how the time they have left to live is diminishing with every passing day. Just as a miserly, poverty-stricken person overly absorbed in family life suffers because he cannot control his senses, the fish swimming in the shallow water had to suffer the heat of the autumn sun. Gradually, the different areas of land gave up their muddy condition, and the plants grew past their unripe stage, in the same way that sober sages give up egotism and possessiveness. These are based on things different from the real self, namely the material body and its byproducts. With the arrival of autumn, the ocean and the lakes became silent, their water still, just like a sage who has desisted from all material activities and given up his recitation of Vedic mantras. In the same way that the practitioners of yoga bring their senses under strict control to check their consciousness from flowing out through the agitated senses, the farmers erected strong mud banks to keep the water within their rice fields from draining out. The autumn moon relieved all creatures of the suffering caused by the sun's rays, just as wisdom relieves a person of the misery caused by his identifying with his material body, and as Lord Mukunda relieves Vrindavan's ladies of the distress caused by their separation from him. Free of clouds and filled with clearly visible stars, the autumn sky shone brilliantly, just like the spiritual consciousness of one who has directly experienced the purport of the Vedic scriptures. The full moon shone in the sky, surrounded by stars, just as Sri Krishna, the Lord of the Yadu dynasty, shone brilliantly on the earth surrounded by all the Vrishnis. Except for the gopis whose hearts had been stolen by Krishna, the people could forget their suffering by embracing the wind coming from the flower-filled forest. This wind was neither hot nor cold. By the influence of the autumn season, all the cows, doe, women, and female birds became fertile and were followed by their respective mates in search of sexual enjoyment, just as activities performed for the service of the Supreme Lord are automatically followed by all beneficial results. O King Parikshit, when the autumn sun rose, all the lotus flowers blossomed happily, except the night-blooming kumut, just as in the presence of a strong ruler, everyone becomes fearless except the thieves. In all the towns and villages, people held great festivals, performing the Vedic fire sacrifice for honoring and tasting the first grains of the new harvest, along with similar celebrations that followed local custom and tradition. Thus the earth, rich with newly grown grain, and especially beautified by the presence of Krishna and Balaram, shone beautifully as an expansion of the Supreme Lord. The merchants, sages, kings, and brahmachari students, kept in by the rain, were at last free to go out and attain their desired objects, just as those who achieve perfection in this life can, when the proper time comes, leave the material body and attain their respective forms. Hare Krishna. So beautiful. So we have lots of time today for discussion. If anybody has any reflections, yes, Ananda Loka Prabhu.
And when you're talking about creating devotees,
What devotees?
when you were talking about appreciation devotees and mentioned when you were talking about Kadamba Maharaj, and immediately right after you said, I was thinking about one devotee who came to mind, because I get to travel all over the country to different temples, and I see a lot of interact with a lot of different devotees. And one devotee that really came to mind was Mother Nidra from Denver. And, you know, we just don't know sometimes the personalities that we're very, very fortunate to have association of, because it's not that they always shine like the sun. Some of them are very subtle in their mannerisms, and but they're just very, very steady, you know.
Yeah.
And when you were mentioning about the seasons, you know, I go to Denver in different times, and Denver could be a very brutal, you know, weather-wise, you know, mile high, and it's really cold, the atmosphere. And every time I go through different seasons, and still, no matter when I go, Mother Nidra is always there. She goes out every day doing Sankirtan. She sets the most amazing examples to the devotees. She goes to every program. She's just so steady and and you can just see the love for how much she's so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, you know. When I first had the opportunity to meet her, there were about 15 brahmacharis in the temple room before Mangal Arati, and I was sitting chanting, and all the devotees were chanting, and all of a sudden it got really quiet, and the curtain hadn't opened, the conch shell hadn't went off, and everyone, and I looked around, and all the brahmacharis were on the ground, and I'm looking, and I'm trying, okay, what happened? What did I miss? You know, was there some? And then I look back, and Mother Nidra is walking in the temple, and she's just offering her obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, you know. And as soon as that happened, all the devotees, so I immediately jumped off and got down. I figured, okay, I better, you know. Then I was very fortunate to have one opportunity when she spoke to me. We were having prasadam together in the prasadam hall. I'll make this quick. I just want.
Okay.
And take your time.
I'm trying. I don't want to take a lot of time. Sorry. But you know, we're talking about glorifying so many amazing devotees that we really have to, I mean, from our hearts, try to appreciate, you know, the fact that these devotees are out there, and they're, you know, for our benefit, you know, because this is what Prabhupada wanted for us to give under that mood. But anyway, I had breakfast with her one morning, and she's talking, and she was the first one to explain to me about my position because she was married. She has a wonderful story of her life.
Yeah.
And she was really encouraging me in my challenges in life since I left, you know, family, that one-on-one. But anyway, to close, again, it's important for us to really try to appreciate so many wonderful senior devotees, men and women. You know, it's not just. There's just so many, you know, different bodies and different shapes with different mentalities. Some are not, you know, brilliant and speak Shastra. You know, there's different, you know, everyone's in a different mood of service and has a different place to give to each other. It's not always intellectual, you know. A lot of times we aspire for that, which is wonderful, but not everyone is blessed with that gift. I could speak from example, but anyway, that's I wanted to say is that there's so many wonderful devotees that are just out there for us to take shelter of.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that there's so many devotees out there, and different shapes, sizes, bodies, propensities, moods of service, and we should really appreciate them all and seek their association. I also had a lot of association with Mother Nidra for 3 months when I was there in Denver, and exactly what you said, she just literally every single day she's at the entire morning program. She dresses the Chota deities every single day. Or no, Giriraj every single day, right?
She does show.
Well, there was some point of time when this other devotee was doing chotas too, but depending on how many people are there. But yeah, at one point she was doing chotas too, but definitely Giriraj every single day with so much love, so much devotion. And yeah, it goes to every single program. She greets every single person. She's like there at every single RT. They do evening reading. This one devotee, Nanda Sunu, was doing evening reading every evening. She would attend the evening read. Yeah, she wasn't, for some time during COVID, she wasn't going out doing book distribution, but she was making phone calls. Yeah, she's just really special devotee. Thank you so much for talking about her glories. If anyone has the opportunity to go to Denver to meet Mother Nidra, they should go. Does anybody else have anything?
Hare Krishna, wonderful class. We especially relish reading right through the whole chapter, and the description of water, very beautiful. Just reflecting on something you already explained very nicely, that each of us has a different position, different talents, different propensity. But Krishna is so wonderful. Krishna is so wonderful that no matter what the season, what the external circumstance, what our own particular station in life is, that every one of us at every moment can do something as an offering to the Lord. And we like that small passage from St. Teresa of Lisieux, where she says, not everyone is called upon to do great things for the Lord, but every one of us can do some small thing with great love. So the perfection is not what we might achieve externally, but if we can please Krishna. And Krishna is so wonderful that he allows anyone to please him. And even if you don't have a lot of facility, or like you said, maybe there's some bodily difficulty, you can say, Lord, I'm doing my humble best. And Krishna will accept it and be totally pleased, and would be totally successful no matter what the situation. How wonderful is Krishna? Krishna is so wonderful.
Okay, thank you so much. Anything? I think Hugo had his hand raised.
Hare Krishna.
You're just gonna
What?
say, let Hugo speak, and then we can let you speak.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I was very much happy to hear the glorification of Mother Nidra, of course, because I spent a good amount of time at the Denver temple. And another thing I thought of in regards to her, I would speak with Tushta Krishna Prabhu, the temple president, and he would share some of her history as well, how now there's some more devotees in the temple, but especially, I mean, she's been at the temple since 1972, nonstop service. And sometimes there would just be essentially no devotees around. The temple would just be a skeleton crew. And there were periods of time when she would do the whole morning program. She would wake up early, go onto the altar, wake up the deities, and then go open, do the Mangalarti, then go back, clean the deity paraphernalia after serving, and then come again, do Tulsi Puja, and then go dress the deities. Literally the whole thing, a one-man, or rather one-woman army. It's incredible. And as I think of this devotee, and also other devotees I've gotten to meet in my life, this is something that goes to this discussion of seasons, that I've observed that really there's nothing that advances someone in Krishna consciousness as much as just consistent faith and service. Just like Anandalok Prabhu was saying, not every Not every devotee is equipped to dive into the Shastras and get deep into philosophy. Not every devotee is perhaps musically excellent in kirtan. Not every devotee can cook incredible meals, but the consistency of just having faith and serving day after day through all the seasons, when you're happy, when you're sad, when it's raining, when it's sunny, the power and potency that comes from that, we can just observe that in these advanced devotees. I think of Kadamba Kanana Maharaj as well. I mean, there's the famous story of how he was in Vrindavan for many years, and then eventually he was shot, and then he had to leave Vrindavan and move on to other services, and didn't even hesitate, just kept going, kept continuing with full vigor and full force. So yeah, that's just kind of a reflection on your discussion of the different seasons and how nothing is more empowering than practicing Krishna consciousness always, in difficulty and in success and in any circumstances. Thank you very much for the class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hugo. You wanted to say something?
Yes. Thank you for this class. It was beautiful, and it's nice to remember as well that we can keep going when even the situation is a little bit complicated, like the devotee that were in the jail for a time. Yeah, so I want to read 2 quotes of Mother Teresa. Yeah, if you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will forget tomorrow. Do the good anyway. And give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you have anyway. This is from Mother Teresa.
That's so beautiful.
Really beautiful. So thank you for the class.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. Anybody else?
Beautiful class, Champakalata. Beautiful. Just a small reflection. Speaking of the seasons that devotees may be going through in their life, we shouldn't be quick to judge or criticize when we see that a devotee is going through a season that we may not understand. It's just a season, so let's not judge and criticize, and appreciate the devotees, no matter what season they're going through.
Yeah, if we want to advance in Krishna consciousness, we should appreciate devotees. And if we want to, if we don't appreciate devotees, we're just going to make offenses and not advance in Krishna consciousness. So it's really, 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 really important, even if we don't understand what a devotee is going through, to never judge and to always appreciate, because there's always something to appreciate.
Jai.
Thank you, Nanda Bihari Prabhu.
Okay, Ananda Manjari. Is there a definition of an offense in the Shastra?
Well, there's the 10 offenses to the holy name, and those are 10 offenses that are offenses. So it's not like there's just one thing that's an offense. Those 10 offenses are very, very important. And then, saying one of those offenses to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name. Like each of those offenses, there's so much within each of those offenses, but in general, like sometimes someone asked Prabhupada, what's the difference between calling a spade and an offense? And he said if just calling something as it is, like saying like, oh, this happened, that happened, with no malintent in our heart, that's not an offense. That sometimes might be necessary, like in management or something like that. But if you have any kind of malintent in your heart, like you want to say something bad about someone else, then that's definitely an offense.
Okay, darshan time, cameras on if you can. Jai, Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for attending this class. It was wonderful. Ananda Manjari, are you still here? Okay. Just a quick thought on the offenses. If we're purposefully trying to put someone down, maybe even for a good reason, and we relish it, putting someone down, that's an offense. But if we're wishing the person well, and we're doing our service by offering a correction or perspective, then that's acceptable. That's Radhanath Maharaj said like that. If you're putting a devotee down, that's an offense. So let's not put anybody down. Let's uplift everybody, whoever we're dealing with. Let's uplift them. It was nice seeing you all, dear devotees. Isabel, driving safely to Krishna. Zakali, Amrita Kishori, Hemangi, Andrea, and Paul. Did Paul put away his knitting when Champakalata was reading? Bruce Prabhu, iPhone, Suzanne, Amish Prabhu, Dana Krishna's Radharani Yogeshwari, Pink Yogi, Preeti Chaturvedi, Ramamurthy, and Bhakta Hugo, US Navy, one-man army, one-man navy, Bhakta Hugo. Okay, Hare Krishna, have a wonderful day. Come again tomorrow. Pink Yogi says, constructive criticism as opposed to destructive criticism. Yes, yes, yes. Hemangi, yes, yes. Hare Krishna, wonderful. Thank you.